Hey guys, my name is Nick Ibarra, and this is the Coffee with Nick podcast. Thanks for joining in. If you are a friend or a family member of mine who's already subscribed, I truly appreciate it. I want to do a little bit of housekeeping with regards to what this podcast is and what we're going to be doing here. Hopefully, shed some light on the experience that I hope you stick around for. So, the podcast was initiated by me because when I would do social media talks about random things, whether it was politics, life, family, legal stuff from experiences I had as a paralegal, I would always get people that would tell me, hey man, you should think about starting a podcast. You should think about some longer form talks. And while these podcasts are going to at least start out 10 to 20 minutes long in length, that's a little bit longer than I was comfortable with doing videos for on social media. So that's one of the things is just people saying that this is something I should do because they felt I was a good communicator. And I've gotten positive feedback with regards to the few people that I've told about this project. So hopefully it goes well. But the bigger thing that I wanted to do with regards to this podcast is let me kind of shift gears in my storytelling. I'm going to tell a story that'll get to why I'm doing what I'm doing, the primary reason I'm doing what I'm doing. So the release date of this first podcast is going to be October 7th, which is this coming Tuesday of 2025. On October 27th of 2025, I will be to the day the age that my father was when he passed away. And that got me to thinking a lot about the pictures I have of my father, the memories I have of my father, the stories that my family tells about my father, in particular my tia in San Antonio, because she's kind of all we have left with regards to the life that my father lived and the stories that his life involved. So with that, I thought, all those things are beautiful things. The memories, the pictures, the stories I get to hear, those are beautiful things. But what if he would have left behind some sort of video concept or something to that effect where I could just look back and see his demeanor, see into his soul, understand who he was as a human being, how his brain worked, that type of thing. And so I thought, what if I did this? And regardless of what happens with the podcast, my children have something that if they so choose, they can look back on and say, hey, that's my dad. And so that's what we're doing with this podcast. I plan to release at least one, if not two episodes a week. And we'll see where this thing goes. But that's the house cleaning. I want to talk a little bit today, and it kind of goes into what I was talking about with regards to leaving something behind and people being able to, my kids being able to say, hey, that was my dad. And that's our legacy. Our legacy as human beings. So my Aunt Bev, it was my mom's sister. She passed away a little over a week ago. And when she passed away, she was ready. She was ready to go. She'd been sick for a little while, and I had a couple talks with her, both in person and over text. And I knew that when she went, she was okay with it. She gets to see family now, and she's at peace. No more pain. With that being said, the night that she passed away, I got into bed, and normally when I get into bed, I'll read a little bit, obviously scroll on social media a little bit, but I found myself just sitting in silence and thinking about her. And what came to mind first was Paul's letter to the Corinthians, chapter 13, where he talks about what love is. And we'll get into that in a minute. And then my mind then went to Paul's letter to the Galatians and talking about the fruits of the Spirit. And so I want to talk about my Aunt Bev's life, and this is in a lot of ways my mom's life, a lot of the experiences they shared, but they were two very different people in how they handled those experiences. And I love my mom. We had a great relationship when she passed away. But my Aunt Bev, man, there's a lot to be said. So They grew up in an abusive household. When my mom and my aunt were teens, their mother, my grandmother, committed suicide. A few years later, their older sister, Sonia, my Aunt Sonia, passed away from blood poisoning, I believe it was. My aunt, she was 2 times divorced. She lost a child who was 17, my cousin Jeremy. He passed away in a car accident. And so she had this life with a lot of struggles, a lot of traumas, a lot of loss, a lot of hardships, and yet she was never bitter about it. She went through a grieving process. She went through the hard times, but she was never bitter about it. She always was a very peaceful, loving, kind, compassionate, empathetic, caring human being, and it got me to thinking, like I said about Paul's letter to the Corinthians, when it talks about what love is, when love is kind, when love is forgiving, when love is not keeping records, when love is all of those things that we want to feel as human beings. And then I got to thinking about Paul's letter to the Galatians, and that's something that's not so well known. Paul's letter to the Corinthians and love is just. We see that everywhere, but one of the things that we don't see is some words that are from, like I said, Paul's letter to the Galatians, and he's talking about fruits of the Spirit, which are love, joy, peace, kindness, gentleness, and self-control. And again, this is these, as I was looking at these and thinking, I ended up looking at them, but thinking about them, I was like, man, that was my Aunt Bev. No matter how hard things got, no matter when people took advantage of her, no matter her past, she was always kind, she was always empathetic. And I thought, that's a legacy. That is something that when you are being, when your funeral occurs, and people are mourning over the loss, your loss, the fact that they've lost you, that's what we should strive to hope that they lose, is kindness, is peace, and not that it is no longer existent in the world, but in you they lost that person. In losing you, that's what they lost. A little piece of that in the world is gone, but it allows them to recognize how important it is, and the fact that they, our loved ones, our family, our friends, they can carry that on if they so choose, and that's what it's really about. And so what it comes down to is who do we want to be? And what are we doing? We say this is what we want to do, this is what we want to be. I remember in 2012, I was sitting in a jail cell, and I was fairly intoxicated, and I was looking, I didn't know it at the time, but I was going to end up looking at 22 years in prison, if the maximum sentences were carried out. And I remember thinking in that jail cell, man, I am a good person. I have a good heart, and I want good things, but I am not behaving like that. And so I realized the choices I'm making were not adding up to the person I wanted to be, and that's what I'm saying is who do we want to be, but not only that, what are we doing to get there at this moment in time, and what are we also doing in the alternative to damage the person that we want to be, to damage what people see in us that we wish they would see versus what they are seeing. So those are things I think we need to ask ourselves every day in every action that we make. So one of the things that I have intended to do, and now with the passing of my Aunt Bev, I know I need to get on to doing it, is writing my own eulogy. And maybe it's an autobiographical eulogy a little bit. Maybe it could be many things. But what I want it to be is this: I want to write my eulogy, and not for some morbid reason, but for this purpose, is that I want to write it. I want to give it to a very close friend of mine who's a Christian, who's raised 2 beautiful, healthy, smart, ethical, honest, moral people, and he gets to call them his son and daughter. He's been in a marriage for more than 20 years, and he has what I would call regardless of struggle, he's had a beautiful life that he has put together through good choices, a lot more good choices than bad choices. And I want to give him that eulogy, and I want to tell him, one, I've chosen you to read it if you happen to outlive me, but two, I want you to read it every year and get back to me and tell me that I'm either doing a good job to uphold what I want to be read about me when I pass away, or that that he would not be comfortable reading that in public, because what I put on that paper is not who I was when I left this world. And so what are those things for me? I just want to be known as somebody who encouraged people, who loved people, who was kind, who was forgiving, who was passive to the extent that he could be, because there's always a time to stop being passive and stand up for certain values, certain beliefs, your family, things like that. But always realizing that hostility and aggression should be the last option, because when they become an option, they become a very extreme option, or can become a very extreme option. But with that being said, kindness, I want to be remembered for kindness, compassion, love, empathy, all those things. And so what I ask you is, if you wrote your own eulogy today, what would it say? And then if you handed it to somebody who knew every little part about you, would they be comfortable reading it in public and believing it was true if you were to pass away tomorrow? So I want to leave you with that. Again, thanks for checking in. This is kind of the format of the podcast, at least for the time being. If you enjoyed it, please like, please subscribe. And again, I'll be trying to put out new episodes at least weekly, if not bi-weekly. You guys have a good day.